Today we have ourselves a very bare bones and, dare I say, simple topic at our hands when it comes to the Montreal Canadiens. The other day when the Habs faced off against the Red Wings, we had ourselves Pierre LeBrun on the TSN intermission segment have himself a little piece that sort of talked about what he believes the Canadiens could be trying to do as the months go on. This all relates into trades and talking about the first-round picks that they have at their disposal. So without further ado, let's go over onto Spectre's Hockey of the other day. This was from yesterday, April 5th, and go over what it is that LeBrun actually said. In this article, there is a link to the video segment on TSN, so just in case you want to go out there and watch it, it is all available there. But Pierre LeBrun believes the Montreal Canadiens would be willing to trade their 2023 first-rounder from the Chiarot Florida Panthers trade in exchange for some sort of a hockey trade, just as they had done in the Kirby Dach deal last year. Now again, this is a pretty simple video topic, it's just one sentence worth of information, and we're making a full-length video about it, but it does kind of signal what exactly it is the Canadiens' thought process is in this situation here. For those who are out of the loop, the Montreal Canadiens currently hold the Florida Panthers first-round pick in the 2023 NHL Entry Draft. They've had this pick for a while, ever since last year when the Canadiens sent over Ben Chiarot to the Florida Panthers. And if you go over to some of the conditions that were sent onto that pick, it was a pretty notable deal. The trade went as follows. Last year, Ben Chiarot was sent over to Florida with 50% salary retained in exchange for prospect Ty Smilanic, a 2022 fourth-round pick that was used to select Cedric Guindon by the Rangers, and this 2023 first. The conditions on the pick were as follows. The Panthers' 2022 first-round pick is top 10 protected. In the event that the Panthers retain their 2022 first, they will no longer own their 2023 first, and Montreal would instead get their 2024 first. The result at the end was that Montreal would receive Florida's 2023 first-round pick. Now, this is a pretty interesting pick if you take a look at the NHL standings because the Florida Panthers are actually doing pretty well. They're in the wild card. They've got 87 points. They are tied with the Islanders. Pittsburgh is right behind them with one fewer point and the same amount of games played. And the Buffalo Sabres are further back with 6 points behind in that race. They also have the same amount of points as Ottawa, but Ottawa has more games. So, pretty much, the way everything is looking, if you go over to, what is it, Money Puck, I believe, that has the odds? Yeah, here you go, Money Puck. Playoff odds. You see, the Florida Panthers have themselves a 78.8% chance at making the playoffs right now. So, if you were to go out there and assume that the Panthers pick would be in the bottom, what is it, like 16 in the first round, then okay, it makes a little bit of sense there as to why Kent Hughes would be interested in shopping that pick and trying to get something else of value that is sort of helping you out in the short term. Again, a hockey trade, most likely a one-for-one type of thing. The first-round pick from Florida in exchange for, let's say, a younger guy that is NHL caliber right now. Now, that's a little difficult to come across because not too many guys that are below the age of 23, 22 years old are readily available just to be traded for one draft pick, but there still are some cases that are the outliers in these situations. You just gotta look out there and find them. And ask around, see what other GMs are offering, etc., etc. You know the drill. It's all part of doing your due diligence and making sure you're exploring all options available. If you go over to the Money Puck, or not the Money Puck, the Tankathon odds right now, and you see where the Florida Panthers are, they currently have the projected 18th overall pick based off of the standings and how everything works out in the playoffs. Of course, if the Panthers make the third round, they win rounds 1 and 2, then all of a sudden their pick drops off to the 28, 29, 30 range, which would be worse for the Canadiens and their draft choices if that does happen. So I think a lot of Canadiens fans are kind of hoping for the Panthers to just kind of do as worse as they can in this year's postseason dance, assuming, of course, they do make it and that 70-something% holds on. But if the Panthers end up choking and not making the playoffs, then hey, that'd be fine too. I think a lot of Canadiens fans would be okay with that. But in the outcome that this pick is somewhere in the, let's say, 16 to 20-something range, the Montreal Canadiens have themselves a pretty good option here if they wanted to trade this away and use it for another guy. That's mostly because if you drafted a guy in the 15-plus-ish range of this year's selection, you're probably not going to see him make an impact with your NHL team until, let's just say, 2025, 2024-ish, if you're lucky. And I say that because it's very rare to have an NHL prospect drafted in this range, 15 to 20-ish, and see him make an impact in the National Hockey League in their Draft Plus 1 or Draft Plus 2 years even. Sometimes they make it, for sure, it's possible, it's just very rarely do you have guys that can be primary contributors that early. It's quite a sight to see when it does happen as a result. And so if the Canadiens can trade this pick away for somebody that's already a few years down the pipeline, a guy that was drafted a few years ago that is a first-round caliber guy that's already in that 21, 22-ish year old territory, then you pretty much would just be extending the process, or not extending, speeding up the process, I guess you could say, of getting value on your hockey team at the NHL level from that first-round pick. We saw this with that first-rounder from the Alexander Romanov trade. Okay, you trade away Romanov, you get a first back, and you trade that first immediately for Kirby Dach. Sure, there were some other things thrown in there too, other picks and whatnot, but at the end of the day, the Canadiens traded away the opportunity to draft Frank Nazar III, and they got Kirby Dach, who was admittedly a third overall player, so he's a lot better than Frank Nazar III in their draft seasons, but he was a few years further into his development, and you could see the rewards bring themselves out on the ice. Kirby Dach has been a lot better for Montreal than he has been for Chicago. And so, if you have any ideas in mind as to who the Canadiens could potentially target, what names do you think could be on the list? Normally, you're not talking about guys that are really hyped up prospects that are doing so well in their NCAA teams or whatever. You're not normally going to see NHL teams try to trade these guys away. Mostly, you're going to look at guys that are needing a change of scenery, for example, the Kirby Dachs of the world, the Jesperi Kotkaniemis of the world, the Aatu Ratus, the Kravtsovs. These are guys that for quite a while were always in that conversation of needing a change of scenery, and as a result, you saw them get traded. Some of them are doing better on their new teams than others, but at the end of the day, it's all about getting that consistency up to a different level and exposing these players to brand new situations on new teams where they're going to have different deployment, etc., etc., etc. So there kind of has to be a bit of criteria if you're going to talk about who the Canadiens could get with that Florida first-round pick. If it does land somewhere in the 15 to 20 range, obviously that's more valuable than if the Florida Panthers make the third round or something and the pick drops off to the end of the first, but at the end of the day, there is an opportunity here for the Canadiens to grab themselves another young player. Depends on what Kent Hughes is looking for, depends on who is on the market, but if you have any ideas, then let me know in the comments your thoughts and opinions about whether or not the Canadiens could, should, or would trade away the Florida first. Who do you think they should trade it away for? And do you agree with the idea that it should be a hockey trade? Do you want instead for the Canadiens to trade this pick away in some sort of a package deal for Pierre-Luc Dubois, for example? Is that the guy you think the Habs should go out there and make a trade for? Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.